Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister have a choice to do what's right and do what's right for all Canadians. I sincerely hope they do that, Mr. Speaker, and the right course of action would be for the Finance Minister to step down and for the Prime Minister to accept his resignation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Statements by members. Déclaration des députés. L'honorable député rapport.
The Honourable Member for Repentigny. A wind of change blew over Quebec yesterday during municipal elections. On behalf of the Bloc Québécois, I want to congratulate every single candidate who was brave enough to participate. I would like to congratulate the winners, but I have a special thought for the women who won. Montreal, Saguenay, Rwanda. For the first time, they have all elected a woman mayor. Montreal, Saguenay, and Rouen, but also Brossard, Longueuil, as well as Repentigny, my hometown, and all over Quebec, women are taking their place. These victories should not allow us to forget that there's a great deal of work to be done to encourage more women to venture into politics. Yesterday, once again, fewer than one-third of the candidates were women. Let's hope that the victories of the new women mayors and those who were re-elected will prove that not only is there room for women in politics, but there is also room for their greatest ambitions.
The Honourable Member for Mission, Matsqui, Fraser Canyon.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the hard work of Wonder Woman Society based in Mission, British Columbia. The Wonder Woman Society is a non-profit organization that supports women's education, employment, business, and health in our community and across BC. The vision for the Wonder Woman Society is to create a diverse network of women who empowers and inspire other women to reach their very best emotional, physical, and mental health. On November 22nd, the Wonder Woman Society will be hosting their first annual fashion show fundraiser. This event will bring together over 200 women from across the Fraser Valley, and I'm proud to support both this event and the long-term work of the Wonder Woman Society. When you change a woman's life, you change her family, you change her community and her world. I applaud their work by empowering women to take advantage.
The Honourable Member for Simcoe Grey.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it gives me great pleasure to rise in the House today to recognize the official grand opening of the Collingwood Youth Centre. Now, this month, over 200 local youth and volunteers will gather to celebrate this next chapter in its history. When the original facility closed in 2016, the Rotary Club of Collingwood, South Georgian Bay, under the leadership of Juanita Hodgson, took the leadership role to find a new vision for this centre. In addition, the Rotary Club, Blue Mountain, the Collingwood Business Development Centre, the Environment Network, Elephant Thoughts, and a local builder, Ray Smith, put their hands together and made this happen. Thanks to their hard work, Collingwood youth will now have access to a wide series of programs that allow them to be successful in the future. I'm so proud of the great work that they've done. Congratulations again to everyone that's made this happen. It's going to be outstanding for Collingwood youth.
The Honourable Member for Sudbury. Mr. Speaker, in my riding of Sudbury, the biggest cultural centre project for the last 25 years in French-speaking Canada will be built. It is called Place des Arts. Behind it, we have a most capable and clever conductor, a great lady from the cultural sector, my friend, Ms. Paulette Gagnon. Mr. Speaker, Ms. Gagnon left us on October 13th. Originally from Hearst, proud Franco-Ontarian, Paulette Gagnon's journey was impressive. She was at the head of the French-Canadian Cultural Federation and the Association of Francophones for Canada. Few were as passionate in defending the interests of artists and cultural groups. No one could tell her no. A formidable leader, architect of the French-Canadian cultural sector. The cultural world is better equipped and structured thanks to Paulette Gagnon's work. I would like to thank you, Paulette. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Hochelaga. Mr. Speaker, it's with great pleasure that I rise today to congratulate the new Mayor of Montreal, my friend, Valérie Plante. As her own son said, Valérie just added her name to the history books. Indeed, and to quote Valerie, 375 years after Jeanne Mance, Montreal finally has its first woman mayor. But above all, Valérie is a progressive, positive woman who brings people together, focuses on them, and has a vision for the future of Montreal that emphasizes the economy, but also public transportation, and you'll understand that this is important to me, affordable social housing. Mr. Speaker, there's a real breath of fresh air in Montreal this morning, and I'm really looking forward to working with her. I would like to seize this opportunity to congratulate the new mayor of Mercier-Hochelaga, Maisonneuve, Pierre Lessemblay, and everyone on local council. You can count on me to raise the priorities of Mercier-Hochelaga, Maisonneuve in Ottawa. Thank you.
Honourable member for Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Monsieur le Président, nous rendons hommage aux...
Mr. Speaker, we pay tribute to Canadian veterans for their courage, their service, and their sacrifice. This week, all over the country, communities will come together to remember the men and women in uniform who answered the call of duty to protect our freedom.
In my riding, I'm honored to be marching with our servicemen and women in both the Aurora and Richmond Hill Remembrance Day parades to remember our local veterans. I'm also proud to attend Wellington Public Schools Remembrance Day ceremony where students in Miss Durham's grade 8 class will each be recognizing a local veteran from our community, and I'm honored to be chosen as a local veteran by student Natalie Pineda and look forward to hearing more about the community. Ce samedi, j'encourage tout.
This Sunday, I encourage all Canadians to take a moment to remember that the peace we enjoy today is the fruit of sacrifice.
Without sacrifice, lest we forget.
The honourable member for Huron-Bruce.
Speaker, on October 27th, the Royal Canadian Legion launched their annual Poppy campaign to raise funds in support of veterans and their families. The same day, members of the Port Elgin Legion began preparing Christmas care packages for deployed service members. Last Christmas, Blair and Elizabeth Eby learned of a servicewoman from Port Elgin and her unit stationed in Iraq that were desperate for a piece of home at Christmas time. The town rallied together with well wishes, donations of artwork, Tim Hortons coffee, and popcorn were quickly donated and mailed out. This year, Legion Branch 340 hopes to send Christmas boxes to 2 units stationed in Iraq and Latvia. This Veterans Week, let's remember the Canadians who pay the ultimate price for our freedom and the soldiers around the world who continue to fight for us. Thank you to the Port Elgin Legion for all they do to support veterans and active service members. God bless you.
The honourable member for Don Valley North.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in tribute to a highly dedicated team of volunteers in my riding. The Pleasant View Community Recreation Committee has been offering after-school classes to children and adults for over 40 years. It is rare to see such a strong and long-lasting volunteer commitment from the same group of people. Some who first got involved as young mothers are now grandmothers, but still they are helping other families' children enjoy learning opportunities. This committee is making a significant and sustained contribution to their community. I salute the compassion and the social engagement of this committee. It is my hope that their passion and love for community continue to inspire others to get involved. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Steveston, Richmond East.
Mr. Speaker, on October 21st, the Health Minister and I were invited to the Pacific Autism Family Network Hub in Richmond. Our tour of their facility was both eye-opening and heartwarming.
This center offers a one-stop shop of programs, support services, and specialized resources for families affected by autism spectrum disorder and related disorders.
And others. The hub is the first of its kind in North America. Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank Sergio, Wendy, and all the people of the Center for their warm welcome and everything that they bring to so many families. I would also like to offer my best wishes for the success of their project to extend their specialized services so that even more families may benefit from them in British Columbia.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
Mr. Speaker, over 93,000 Canadian soldiers took part in the Italian campaign in World War II. 6,000 paid the ultimate price and are buried in military cemeteries throughout Italy, and 19,000 more were wounded. These facts are little known in Canada or Italy. The spirit, sacrifices, and commitment of these Canadians led to many defining moments of the campaign, and their actions have been described as heroic and pivotal. But Canada's participation has been mostly misidentified as American or British. Thanks to the work of the Peace Through Valor Committee, this is changing. The committee unveiled a monument in June 2016 at Nathan Phillips Square in Toronto, and they are currently working on a book. On behalf of everyone in this place, I want to recognize the Peace Through Valor Committee for their work shining a light on Canadian soldiers' efforts in Italy.
The honour of the member for Charleswood, St. James, Assiniboia, Headingley.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the important work of Connie Newman and Doug Mackey, two outstanding individuals in my community. Connie Newman was bestowed the Manitoba Council on Aging Recognition Award for her tireless work with numerous advocacy groups for seniors, and I had the pleasure of working with her personally to address the issues facing seniors in my riding. Doug Mackey opened the first men's sheds in Manitoba to create a community space where senior men can help each other get through difficult times. Members have credited Doug and men's sheds as having given their lives renewed purpose. Doug was selected as one of the 150 leading Canadians for mental health, and I look forward to highlighting Doug's great work at our upcoming Spirit of Giving event on November 18th. It is community members like Connie and Doug that define the best of Charleswood, St. James, Assiniboia, Headingley as a welcoming and inclusive place for all, and it is my honour to stand in the House to recognize their achievements.
The honourable member for Dorval, Lachine, LaSalle.
This weekend, we celebrated the birth of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the founder of the Sikh religion. His mission was to create a universal religion of compassion, love, and kindness, and to reinforce that we are all children of the same being. In the late 1400s, when women were severely oppressed, the Guru empowered them and uplifted their status by writing in the Sikh holy scripture that disrespecting women is unacceptable, that within her man is conceived, from her are born saints and kings. Les trois principes de base.
The three basic principles that he taught were to lead an honest life, to help the less fortunate, and to look for God within. The Guru also sought to reject Maya, which is materialism, to serve humanity and elevate others.
The daily prayer, Nanak Naam Chardi Kala Tere Pane Sarbat Da Pala, where every day a Sikh asks the Almighty for the well-being of all humanity in the worldwide community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very nice.
The honourable member for Foothills.
Mr. Speaker, I had the opportunity to travel to beautiful New Brunswick and PEI to talk to our farmers in Atlantic Canada. Their innovation, diversity of product, and entrepreneurial spirit is incredible. But what I heard from these farmers is the frustration with Liberal policies affecting their farms, stifling their small businesses and their communities. After denying it for months, the Liberals had to admit that their changes would indeed impact the future of the family farm. Through all of this, the Agriculture Minister and Liberal MPs in Atlantic Canada were silent. There's a great deal of anxiety among Canadian farmers. They do not trust this Liberal government, and they have reason to be wary. Punitive carbon tax, critical trade agreements now in jeopardy, and crippling taxes on family farms that show that agriculture is not a priority for this Liberal government. As Shadow Minister for Agriculture, I will continue to listen to our farmers, stand up for Canadian agriculture, and ensure our producers in Atlantic Canada and across the country that the Conservatives will ensure that farmers in Canada have a powerful voice here in Parliament.
Hear, hear. Honourable member for Ottawa South.
Mr. Speaker, on a chilly November afternoon, exactly 150 years ago today, on November 6, 1867, Canada's House of Commons met for the very first time. This historic event was a bold and courageous leap of faith towards building the great country that we in this House have the privilege to serve. Mes collègues parlementaires seraient...
My parliamentary colleagues might be interested to know that, as required by current tradition, the first order of the day was to elect a new Speaker of the House of Commons. At the time, in 1867, Canada was changing quickly. Made up of only 4 provinces, the first legislature would include 6 at its dissolution in 1873.
Stand on the shoulders of successive generations of Canadians And as members of Parliament, we must never, ever lose sight of why we are here. To do our best to serve our constituents and build a better Canada for future generations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Hamilton Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, hundreds of people have come to Parliament Hill today to demand changes to Canada's inadequate bankruptcy and insolvency laws. These people have gathered here to reflect the profound support across Canada to make the laws fair for Canadian workers and their families. The collapse of Sears Canada focused attention on the depth of unfairness in our system, as workers are stripped of basic rights like severance and termination pay, and retirees will see their pensions reduced. But the tragedy of Sears Canada is the only tip of the iceberg. Many of those joining us in Ottawa today know firsthand what happens when workers are put at the bottom of the list. They have lived with and seen these effects. Workers losing jobs and benefits, and pensioners losing pension and health care benefits. I salute all those who have come to Parliament Hill today to demand change, and to the millions of Canadians across the country who support them. Our laws allow for legalized corporate theft, plain and simple, and it has to stop.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it is with a heavy heart that I rise on behalf of the Conservative Caucus to recognize the terrible act of violence that occurred on Sunday during a religious service in Sutherland Springs in Texas. Regardless of the circumstances, cowardly, murderous acts such as that one targeting families and friends always leave us shocked and deeply saddened.
These victims were simply gathering with their community to celebrate their faith, a faith that is focused on joyous acceptance of others and love for our fellow human beings. For millions of people around the world, including Canada, and for our friends in the United States, faith is the wellspring for our principles and can be such a force for good. We pray that, in time, God will grant the family and friends of yesterday's victims the peace that was so cruelly taken from them by a madman this weekend. And on behalf of the Conservative Party and my caucus, I wish to extend our deepest condolences and sympathy to the victims and their families. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Orleans.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my honourable colleague for his comments. I stand today to share thoughts and heartfelt prayers for our American friends and neighbours in the wake of yesterday's senseless and horrific act of violence in Sutherland Springs. We extend our deepest condolences to the families and friends of those killed, and we wish a speedy recovery to all those harmed. Mr. Speaker, that this attack occurred in a place of worship, a place of safety and peace, is beyond appalling. We stand united with our friends and allies in the United States, as we have always done and as we will always do in their time of mourning. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of the 16th Prime Minister of Canada, the Right Honourable Joe Clark. The 17th Prime Minister of Canada, the Right Honourable John Napier Turner. The 18th Prime Minister of Canada, the Right Honourable Brian Mulroney. The 21st Prime Minister of Canada, the Right Honourable Paul Martin. The 31st Speaker of the House of Commons, the Honourable John William Bosley. 34th Speaker of the House of Commons, the Honourable Peter Milliken. And now for something they're all familiar with, questions orales, oral questions, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Paradise Papers reveal that the Prime Minister's chief fundraiser, Stephen Bronfman, moved millions of dollars to offshore tax havens through a complex web of entities in the U.S., Israel, and the Cayman Islands. The papers show evidence of bogus records to hide payments, false invoicing, and six-figure gifts to avoid paying tax attributed to Bronfman. Now, at the height of a softwood lumber dispute, the Prime Minister chose to take Stephen Bronfman to a state dinner at the White House, leaving his Minister of Natural Resources behind. Simple question, what business did Bronfman have at the White House?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, if you'll permit, on behalf of all Canadians, I extend my deepest condolences to the families and friends of those killed in Texas, and we hope for a speedy recovery for all those injured yesterday. It is appalling that this act took place in a place of worship where worshippers should have felt safe. Canada, as a nation, stands in solidarity with the United States during this difficult time. On the other matter, I can assure them that we are fully committed to fighting tax avoidance and tax evasion, and will continue to ensure that the CRA pursues all infringers upon that for the many years to come.
Chef de l'Opposition.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister spent part of the summer and fall calling local business owners tax cheats. He accused them of using tax loopholes to save money on taxes. But what will he do now that close Liberal advisors have been named in the Paradise Papers and that they are the ones who allegedly used tax loopholes to shelter their fortunes? How long has the Prime Minister known that Liberal bagman Stephen Bronfman has been avoiding paying all of his taxes in Canada? Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we are fully committed to fighting tax evasion and avoidance. I will let the individuals involved comment on the situation, but I can tell you that the Revenue Agency is examining all links abroad and will take all necessary measures concerning the Paradise Papers. In our first two budgets, we invested historic sums to fight against tax frauds, and our plan is leading to results. We have 627 cases that were transferred to criminal investigations, 268 warrants, and several convictions. We will continue on in this vein. Mr. Speaker, after the Minister of Finance, it's now Liberal bagman Stephen Bronfman's turn to be caught red-handed. He hid part of his fortune in a tax haven. Why does the Prime Minister always make honest middle-class families pay while allowing his friends to avoid paying taxes in Canada? Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, in the last two budgets, we invested nearly $1 billion in order to target high-risk taxpayers here and abroad. The Canada Revenue Agency is examining links with Canadian organizations and will take all necessary measures as far as the Paradise Papers are concerned. But our investments are already bearing fruit. We saved $25 billion in undeclared revenue, and we will continue to work for a fairer tax system for all Canadians. Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, Stephen Bronfman once said that his goal was to, quote, raise a lot of money and to help him become the next Prime Minister. Now, Bronfman became the Liberal Party's head of revenue, and he hosted cash for access events with the Prime Minister. One event was advertised as an opportunity for donors to, quote, form relationships and open dialogues with our government. Clearly, Bronfman believed that giving money to this Prime Minister would yield favorable outcomes. So when did the Prime Minister learn that Bronfman's interests included protecting favorable offshore tax treatment?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as you well know, we are fully committed to fighting tax evasion and tax avoidance. I will let individuals comment on their own situation, but in regards to the Paradise Papers, the CRA is reviewing links to Canadian entities and will take every appropriate action. In the last two budgets, Mr. Speaker, we invested nearly $1 billion to identify high-risk taxpayers in Canada and abroad. Our investments have already yielded results. We're on track to recuperate $25 billion from our efforts against tax avoidance and tax evasion. We'll continue to work for a system that's fair.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, over the past 2 years, this Liberal government has demonized retail workers who enjoy an employee discount. They've demonized hardworking entrepreneurs and business owners and characterized them as tax cheats. This Prime Minister is even raising taxes on diabetics to pay off his billion-dollar deficits. Meanwhile, here in the House, defending a man who hid his taxes from the Canadian, who hid his assets from the Ethics Commissioner. Now, why is it that under this government, it's always the middle class and working Canadians who pay a little bit more? Meanwhile, wealthy friends like Stephen Bronfman always end up getting away paying less.
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to talk about what we've done over the past 2 years. We raised taxes on the wealthiest 1% so we could lower them on the middle class. We delivered a Canada Child benefit that gives more money to 9 out of 10 Canadian families with the high costs of raising kids. And we did that by stopping sending the child benefit checks to millionaire families. On top of that, we're lowering small business taxes to 9%. We've put more money in the pockets of our most vulnerable seniors through $1,000 more almost in the guaranteed income supplement. We made it cheaper and more affordable for young people to go to school. That's what we...
L'honorable député de...
The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Nejet, Témiscouata-Lévesque.
The stats that the Prime Minister is quoting, it actually shows that government is doing a good job going after the small taxpayer, going after the ordinary Canadian, but they always let the big fish go. We know about Stephen Bronfman through the Paradise Papers, but let's not forget that this government, through the Truist Committee, stalled the study on KPMG and the Isle of Man. And let's not forget that this government has done nothing about the Panama Papers. This government has not taken seriously the issue of tax haven and offshore accounts. When will they?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, on the contrary, we have always stood up strongly in fighting against tax evasion and tax avoidance. And indeed, this is a multi-billion-dollar issue. That's why we made a billion-dollar investment to tackle it. We are reviewing leaks to identify any links to Canadian entities, and we'll take every appropriate action. We use the information received through leaked lists when they arise, but we do not wait on these lists to attack the problem. That's why the CRA has more than 990 audits and more than 42 criminal investigations related to offshore financial structures underway as of September 30th, 2017.
The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Nejet, Témiscouata-Lévesque.
The small taxpayer, but not the big fish. This Prime Minister was elected on the promise to work hard for the middle class and those who work hard to join it. Well, Mr. Speaker, the middle class cannot afford accounts on the Cayman Islands, but the liberal, rich and wealthy friends can. The Prime Minister said shortly after his election that tax avoidance, tax evasion is something we take very seriously and promised swift action. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are still waiting. What is the Prime Minister waiting for?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are fully committed to fighting tax evasion and tax avoidance. That's why we put close to $1 billion in the last two budgets to do just that. And in investing historic sums to make sure we have the right tools to crack down on tax evaders, we've got concrete results delivered. 627 cases transferred to criminal investigations, 268 search warrants executed, 78 convictions. We will continue to work hard every day for a tax system that is fair for everyone.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Hiring more inspectors when you keep the same treaties with tax havens doesn't change anything, Mr. Speaker. An international consortium of journalists revealed the names of more people using tax havens. Was it stars, multinationals, Trump? Well, in Canada, surprise, it was the Liberals. Former Liberal Prime Minister, ministers, senators, and Liberal organizers. If the Liberals aren't doing anything to fight tax havens, perhaps it's because they're protecting their Liberal family. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Canadians know that in our first two budgets, we invested nearly $1 billion to fight tax avoidance and evasion. We are continuing to work every day to ensure that everyone pays their fair share of taxes. And we are delivering concrete results. There are 627 cases that were transferred to criminal investigations, 268 warrants, and dozens of convictions. We are working every day to have a fairer system for all Canadians. The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. The Cayman Islands is the type of place where there are more bank accounts than people. And, Mr. Speaker, middle-class Canadians and those working hard to join it don't have bank accounts in the Cayman Islands. Do you know Stephen Bronfman? You should. He was the Prime Minister's campaign manager during his leadership run, and he's responsible for fundraising for the Liberal Party of Canada. Oh, and he also has a trust account in the Cayman Islands. If the Liberals aren't doing anything to fight tax havens, perhaps it's because they want to protect Liberal fundraisers and the Prime Minister's friends. Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as I've said, I will allow the individuals in question to comment on their situation, but we in this government are continuing to fight tax avoidance and tax evasion. We will continue to work for the middle class and those working hard to join it. That's why we lowered taxes for the middle class and increased them for the wealthiest Canadians. That's why we delivered the Canada Child Benefit, which gives more money every month, tax-free, to 9 out of 10 families. That's why we are lowering taxes for small businesses to 9%. That's what we're doing for the middle class. The Honourable Member for Richmond-North Athabasca. Well, then, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister spent the whole summer calling our farmers, business owners, and professionals tax cheats. Now, the Paradise Papers scandals reveals the full extent of the Liberals' hypocrisy. It's not the local plumber who was named in these papers. It's the Liberals' chief fundraiser, Stephen Bronfman, and the ex-Liberal Senator, Leo Colbert, two very good friends of this party. So my question is simple. When did the Prime Minister know that his fundraiser was directly linked to tax havens? The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, our government is firmly committed to fighting tax avoidance and tax evasion. In our first two budgets, we took concrete steps. We invested $1 billion. We targeted 4 jurisdictions per year. We hired new competent staff. Our plan is yielding results. 627 cases transferred to criminal investigations, 268 search warrants issued, 78 convictions. And we are looking into links with Canadian entities, and we will take the necessary steps. The Honourable Member for Richmond-North Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, if the Minister asked for the Prime Minister's friends' phone numbers, think that would go a lot faster, because they've been using a lot of different schemes to hide millions of dollars in tax havens. The friendship between the Prime Minister and Stephen Bronfman is undeniable. They've even vacationed together. And in 2015, Bronfman said that he was ready to do anything to get the Prime Minister elected. So why did the Prime Minister let his friend, the Liberals' chief fundraiser, avoid paying taxes like all Canadians? The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, I'll say once again, our government is fully committed to fighting tax evasion. Mr. Speaker, the hypocrisy of the member opposite is amazing. Mr. Blackburn, who was the Minister of National Revenue, said in an interview that this wasn't even a priority for the former Conservative government. We will not take lessons from a party that works every day to ensure that the wealthiest Canadians have more privileges. Canadians expect a fair tax system. That's what we promised, and that's what we're going to deliver.
Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, with the Liberals, it's always the same. You scratch my back, and I'll scratch yours. Stephen Bronfman said to the Prime Minister, anything I can do to help, just let me know. And the Prime Minister said, big thanks for your help, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, and Liberal buddies are taken care of once again. Does the Prime Minister not see why Canadians are so outraged by yet another example of liberal hypocrisy and conflict of interest?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, our government is firmly committed to fighting tax evasion. We've invested close to $1 billion over the last 2 years. which has allowed us to announce that we are very close to having recovered $25 billion, Mr. Speaker. Our actions are bearing fruit. The agency is looking into links between Canadian agencies, and we will take the necessary measures. I want to reassure Canadians about that.
Opposition House Leader.
When Bronfman said the goal is to raise a lot of money to help this guy become the next Prime Minister, he wasn't doing it as an act of charity. He, as all Liberals do, always wants something in return. He and the Prime Minister are close friends, and Bronfman is an integral part of the Prime Minister's inner circle. Here's a question. If the Prime Minister is truly concerned about the tax avoiders revealed in the Paradise Papers, will he instruct his party to return all of the money raised by Bronfman? Yes or no?
Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, our government is firmly committed to fighting tax evasion and tax avoidance so that our tax system is fair for all Canadians. I am proud of the leadership role that Canada has played on the international stage. Collaboration between different tax agencies, including tax sharing measures, are an essential part of protecting the integrity of Canada's tax system. Our efforts have borne fruit. We are very close to having recovered $25 billion, Mr. Speaker.
For Carleton.
Stephen Bronfman is the Prime Minister's top money man and was the Liberal Party, quote, revenue chair. The Prime Minister vacations with him and even broke with protocol to bring him to a state dinner with President Obama. Now we know that he used a $60 million tax haven scheme to avoid paying his fair share here in Canada. If the Prime Minister wants to restore any credibility on the issue of tax fairness, will he immediately order the Liberal Party to give back all the money that Stephen Bronfman raised for the Liberals?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, our government is firmly committed to fighting tax evasion. In our last two budgets, we made historic investments of almost $1 billion, and they've led to tangible results for Canadians. We're very close to recovering $25 billion. We have been looking at 4 new jurisdictions per year. Our plan is yielding results. We have 627 cases transferred to criminal investigations, 268 search warrants, and 78 convictions. We are continuing to work for Canadians.
Carleton.
Well, they have spent another $1 billion on tax collectors. And who have those tax collectors gone after? Have they gone after Morneau Chappelle? Have they gone after the billionaire Bronfman family? Or have they instead decided to go after people suffering with diabetes? Have they decided instead to go after minimum wage earning waitresses who enjoy a small chicken sandwich at the end of their shift? Or are they going after small businesses and farmers? When will this high tax hypocrisy come to an end?
Order. Order. Order.
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, there is not any Canadian who doesn't have a friend or a family affected by mental health issues. The social costs of this are very high. We have been awarding a record number of tax credits for people with disabilities, and we've been helping people with mental health issues as well. We invested $5 billion in Budget 2017 to help 500,000 Canadians under the age of 25, and we will continue to target those who are the most vulnerable. Thank you.
Sherbrooke.
The Honourable Member for Sherbrooke. Mr. Speaker, the government doesn't understand anything about international tax evasion because they're continuing to ignore the fundamental problem instead of facing the issue of tax havens. The minister seems to think that the solution is greater investments in the revenue agency, but the fundamental problem is that our laws are overly permissive and they benefit the Liberal Party's friends. So can the minister take her head out of the sand? And she voted for an NDP motion to fight tax havens. So why hasn't she yet propose clear legislative measures to end this legal scam. The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, I'd like my colleague across the way to have as many results as we have against tax evasion. Over the last 2 years, we invested $1 billion. We've recovered nearly $25 billion. There are charges being laid. We have been investigating 4 new jurisdictions per year. Mr. Speaker, there are cases that have been transferred to criminal investigations, and we are delivering for Canadians what we promised in our election campaign.
For North Island Powell River.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it certainly didn't take long for the Liberals to start acting like Liberals, placing wealthy friends ahead of everyday Canadians. In March this year, the Liberals voted in favour of the NDP's motion calling on the government to take action to tackle tax havens, including renegotiating tax treaties that let companies repatriate profits from tax havens to Canada tax-free. Spoiler alert, Mr. Speaker, they haven't done any of it yet. Simple question. Did the Prime Minister refuse to act on tax havens to help his wealthy friends?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, during the election campaign, our election platform was very clear on this. We said that we would target tax evasion and tax havens. We have invested $1 billion over the last 2 years, Mr. Speaker. We have real results to show. Nearly $25 billion recovered. Criminal investigations. We are working with international tax organizations, and I can tell you that I'm very proud of the leadership role that we've taken on the international stage. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Laurent. Well, Mr. Speaker, Canada's reputation internationally is now being hurt by a major ethics crisis which directly affects the Prime Minister. Stephen Bronfman, the chief fundraiser for the Liberal Party, has been caught red-handed using tax havens. And Mr. Bronfman is a close confidant of the Prime Minister. A year and a half ago, when the Prime Minister was welcomed to the White House, he left his Natural Resources Minister in Ottawa, but he brought his great friend, Mr. Bronfman. Can the Prime Minister give us one reason, just one reason, why he left his Natural Resources Minister in Ottawa but brought his Liberal bagman friend? The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, our government is firmly committed to fighting tax evasion and avoidance. What we want is a fair tax system for all Canadians. Our actions are bearing fruit, Mr. Speaker. Nearly $1 billion have been invested over the last 2 years, and this will allow us to recover nearly $25 billion. I am very proud of the leadership role that we have taken internationally. We are continuing to work internationally with our partners. That's what Canadians want, and that's what we're doing. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Laurent. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is very close to the Bronfman family and Stephen Bronfman himself, and that is what is standing Canada's reputation. Now, the influential journal The Guardian said this morning that the chief fundraiser and senior advisor to the Liberal Prime Minister, who played a critical role in his rise to power. Now, that's not insignificant, Mr. Speaker. This is not just anyone who's saying this. So, can the Prime Minister give us one good reason, just one, why he left his Natural Resources Minister in Ottawa when he went to Washington, but brought his Liberal friend? The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, our government is fully committed to fighting tax evasion. And, Mr. Speaker, I don't understand my colleagues across the way. The hypocrisy of the Conservatives is just amazing, Mr. Speaker. When a former Minister of National Revenue, Mr. Jean-Pierre Blackburn, said that it wasn't even a priority for the Conservative government to fight tax evasion, this is something that we promised during the election campaign. We are taking concrete steps, and we are continuing to do that so that everyone will pay their fair share, and we will have a fair tax system for all Canadians.
For Barry Innisfil.
You want to talk about hypocrisy? Let's talk about 2 sets of tax rules, one for Liberals and one for everyday working-class Canadians, Mr. Speaker. Bronfman and his associates are reported to have engaged in bogus record-keeping, false invoicing, and 6-figure gifts to avoid paying tax. and this Prime Minister continues to protect them. The Prime Minister is so close to Bronfman that at the height of a softwood lumber dispute, he took him to the White House instead of the Natural Resources Minister. Canadian taxpayers paid for that trip. So we ask the government again, what business did Bronfman have at the White House?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, in our first two budgets, we invested nearly $1 billion. These are historic sums to fight against tax avoidance and evasion. Our plan is yielding results, Mr. Speaker. 627 cases transferred to criminal investigations, 268 search warrants, 78 convictions. The Canada Revenue Agency is looking into links with Canadian entities and will take the necessary measures, Mr. Speaker. We are continuing to work for a fair system for all Canadians.
Member for Chilliwack Hope.
A Liberal is a Liberal is a Liberal, and you can always count on them to be entitled to their entitlements. Entitled to take private helicopters on private island vacations, entitled to taxpayer-funded nannies, entitled to protecting their vast family fortunes from any unfair tax changes, entitled to set up offshore tax havens in France, Barbados, or the Cayman Islands, while Canadians are entitled to know why do they always end up footing the bill when these lifestyle of the rich and famous Liberals pay less.
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, our government is firmly committed to working to fight tax evasion and tax avoidance. I want to reassure Canadians, Mr. Speaker, that I personally, as Minister, have been enforcing the laws, and the laws apply to everyone, Mr. Speaker. We need to have a tax system that is fair for all Canadians.
Honourable Member for Hamilton Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, today, after consulting with workers across the country, I'm tabling a private member's bill to protect the pensions workers and retirees earn. Currently, Canada's bankruptcy laws do not protect workers' pensions and benefits. The Prime Minister knows this, which is why he promised workers in my hometown that he would improve retirement security for Canadians. But he's so far refused to fix the rules that let companies shortchange workers' pension plans. Workers fulfilled their obligations. Companies in this government must do the same. Will the Prime Minister keep his promise and work with me to protect our pensioners? Yes.
Honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, our government supports secure pensions. And more importantly, we understand the workers and their families and the dedication and commitment that they make to the various companies. It's important that we work with them. With respect to the CCAA process, that process is designed to help companies in financial distress so that they can restructure their affairs in order to come out of that restructuring process to help preserve and create thousands of jobs. With respect to Sears, the current issue at hand, we're working with Sears Canada's employees across the country through Service Canada in order to provide assistance and support to the workers and their families.
Honourable Member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
The Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women's Inquiry says its slow progress is due to Liberal interference. In fact, it reports 8 out of 10 challenges are barriers put up by this government, like strangling bureaucracy and lack of resources. It's clear the Liberals misled families when they promised they were doing everything they could to help this inquiry succeed. Will the Liberals support the families of missing and murdered Indigenous women? And when will they stop blocking the inquiry's work?
Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations.
Mr. Speaker, the important work of the Commission is crucial to getting the families have been waiting for decades and to end this ongoing tragedy. We are absolutely committed to ensuring the Commission has all the support it needs to succeed. We have struck a working group to provide the effective back office support to the Commission to ensure it is able to do its work effectively. Families must and will get the answers they need.
The Honourable Member for Kitchener South Hespeler.
Mr. Speaker, people in my riding of Kitchener South Hespeler and Waterloo Region are proud of our government's commitment to grow the economy, create jobs, and strengthen the middle class. They know that smart investments our government is making will help more Canadians find and keep good, well-paying jobs. Can the minister update this House on what our government is doing to grow the economy and ensure every Canadian has a fair shot at success?
Honourable Minister of Employment.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague from Kitchener, South Hespeler, and the investments that we're making in childcare and skilled trades and training and infrastructure will put more Canadians on the path to success. Since our government first took office, the Canadian economy has created over 500,000 jobs. We have seen 11 consecutive months of job growth, the best in a decade. And as Bank of Montreal economist Doug Porter noted, September and October marked the highest two-month period of job growth on record. Mr. Speaker, we ran on a plan to make smart investments to grow our economy and strengthen our middle class, and that plan is working.
Honourable Member for Sarnia-Lambton.
Mr. Speaker, the Revenue Minister seems to be proud of reaching into the pockets of disabled people and taking away their tax credits and pension plans, while the Prime Minister's chief political fundraiser is sheltering his fortune in an offshore tax haven. Canadians can see the Liberal hypocrisy. Why won't she protect vulnerable Canadians and make Liberal friends sheltering their fortunes in offshore bank accounts pay the same fair share that they expect of all other taxpayers?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, our government has committed to ensuring that all Canadians receive the tax credits they're entitled to. We're going forward with legislation concerning accessibility for persons with disabilities, and we have facilitated access to the disability tax credit. We have also simplified the forms, and in Budget 2017, we allowed nurses to fill out requests for their patients. We continue to work for the most vulnerable Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
Rocky Ridge.
Well, Mr. Speaker, for months, this department has been going after type 1 diabetics, and today this minister has told us how proud she is of her department. Is she proud of targeting disabled Canadians? Is she proud of targeting low-wage earning retail employees? Is she proud of going after small businesses? Yes. When will this government get its priorities straight, back off of vulnerable Canadians, and go after real tax avoiders, including Liberal insiders?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, our government is firmly committed to ensuring that Canadians who must receive tax credits, they're entitled to do so. I'd like to tell my colleagues across the way that the Act has not been amended, it has not been changed, and so the Act applies as it always has, Mr. Speaker, and we will continue to work with our partners. We will continue to meet with them. We will also continue to do better with our partners, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, perhaps the Act hasn't changed, but the interpretation of the Act has changed because they are targeting the most disadvantaged people. They're targeting business people, and now they're going after people with type 1 diabetes. 80% of those people will no longer receive their tax credit. Why is the government continuing to attack the most vulnerable people in our society? Why aren't they looking into tax havens instead where they hide their money? The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, our government is firmly committed to fighting tax evasion and abusive tax planning. And over the past 2 years, we have invested over $1 billion, which allowed us to recover over $25 billion, Mr. Speaker. Accusations have been put forward. That's what Canadians asked it to do, and that's what we're doing, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Durham.
Mr. Speaker, in the last few months, this Liberal government has been squeezing Canadian small businesses for more tax revenue. They've been taking away tax relief from families fighting diabetes, autism, and mental health issues. But, Mr. Speaker, what's the one group the Liberals have left alone? Their super-rich friends and those working hard to join them, Mr. Speaker. When will the Prime Minister stop targeting hard-working Canadian families and start closing tax and ethics loopholes used by his friends?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, I would like to tell the Conservative Party across the way that the tax credits for disabled people has not been changed, Mr. Speaker. On the contrary, over the past 2 years, the money that has been given to these people, the tax credits, has been increased. Our government works for the middle class. Our government works for persons with disabilities. We have increased the Canada Child Benefit for the very reason that we wanted to help families. We lowered the retirement age. We have increased the guaranteed income supplement.
Children and their families who have been impacted for years by the no-flag list are on Parliament Hill today demanding an end to this human rights violation. There are children as young as 6 being denied boarding flights. Canadians want to see a properly funded redress system in the 2018 federal budget, and they want an end to the hundreds, if not thousands, of false positives that have occurred to date. When will this government finally heed these calls and end this injustice for families once and for all?
Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, we fully appreciate the frustration of law-abiding travellers who can be stigmatized and delayed as a result of false positives on the no-fly list. But to be clear, there are no children on the no-fly list, but there is confusion among similar names. That takes new legislation to fix that problem, new regulations, and a new computer system. The first of those steps is being taken in Bill C-59. I urge the NDP to vote for it.
Honourable member for Beloeil-Chambly.
C-59, as those parents said today at their press conference, does nothing to fix the problem they face every single time they try and travel. And I'd ask the minister if he wants to go in front of those families and tell them, don't worry, your child's not on the list. These are the false positives that are being lived by thousands of Canadians. Monsieur le Président, c'est des enfants, c'est des gens.
Mr. Speaker, we're talking about children, business people, and even veterans who are having trouble traveling, who are dealing with humiliation, profiling, and the fear of finding their names on the no-fly list. So will the minister fund a real and robust redress system, yes or no?
Mr. Speaker, the problem is the no-fly list that was designed 10 years ago contained an inherent design flaw that needs to be fixed. To fix it takes legislation and regulations and a new computer system built from the bottom up. The first step is to pass Bill C-59 to give us the legal authority to do these things, and I urge the NDP to support C-59.
The honourable member for Lethbridge.
Mr. Speaker, the Finance Minister defends tax havens by insisting that they don't actually need to be fixed, that there's no problem. Now, we thought the Finance Minister was just protecting his own interests within his family company, but it turns out that there's actually a whole crew of Liberals who are colluding together in order to keep these tax loopholes open. Now, my question is very simple here, Mr. Speaker, and that is, when did the Prime Minister become aware that the Liberal Party's head of revenue, Stephen Bronfman, was sheltering money in offshore accounts?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, our government is firmly committed to fighting tax evasion and tax avoidance. In fact, in our first two budgets, we invested some $2 billion, and we are seeing results, Mr. Speaker. It is working. Our plan is working. 627 cases that were transferred to criminal investigations, some 200 searches, 78 convictions. So the CRA is looking at the links between Canadian entities, and it will take appropriate measures with regard to the Paradise Papers. And Mr. Speaker, we are working for Canadians to ensure that our tax system is fair.
For Central Okanagan's Milkmean Nicola.
They say their plan is working, Mr. Speaker. It's the media that's working. That's how we know about the Paradise Papers. Now, the Finance Minister has defended offshore tax havens in places like Barbados by saying he doesn't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. Now, Mr. Speaker, it seems that the babies that the minister was referring to are a bunch of the Prime Minister's friends and Liberal Party donors.
Liberal babies.
When will the Prime Minister quit attacking farmers and small business owners, start investigating Liberal Party donors who are using offshore tax havens?
Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, our government is firmly committed to fighting tax evasion and aggressive tax avoidance, and I am proud of the role that Canada is playing on the international scene. Tax evasion is a worldwide problem. Everyone or rather, we are working with all partners at the international level, and the investment that we have made of some $1 billion are showing results. We are going to we have recovered some $25 billion. We have had charges laid. People are being searched. We have promised to Canadians, and we are keeping our promises.
Mr. Speaker, middle-class Canadians continue to hear this Prime Minister demand tax fairness from them, but when it comes to Liberal Party donors and wealthy insiders, this Prime Minister practices instead tax forgiveness. Now, when will this Prime Minister end his two-tier taxation policy and start making Liberal insiders and donors pay their fair share of Liberal spending, rather than go after hardworking Canadian small business owners and farmers?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you that as Minister of National Revenue, I can ensure that there will be no double standard. Everyone must obey the law, Mr. Speaker. That is one of the conditions for having a fair tax system. We promised this during the election campaign, and we took tangible measures. We invested some $1 billion, Mr. Speaker, and that investment is working, and we're going to continue to work for Canadians as they have asked us to do.
Danforth.
The effectiveness and compassion of our immigration system makes Canada an example for the world. But we know that we can always do better, including when it comes to immigration detention. Our government has made great steps on this. And it can be seen in the significant drop in the number of people detained under immigration laws in the last 2 years. Can the Minister please tell us what more the government is doing to ensure that immigration detention, especially for minors, is used as rarely as possible?
Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
We are working very hard to improve the immigration detention system, and I thank the member for Toronto Danforth for being such a strong advocate. Today I'm announcing a new directive that includes the best interests of the child as a primary factor for the Canadian Border Services Agency when making decisions affecting families. The goal is avoiding children in detention as much as humanly possible. We are committed to an immigration system that protects public safety while treating people with fairness, dignity, and compassion.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
New taxes for Morneau Chappelle, zero. New taxes for the Finance Minister's family company in Barbados, zero. New taxes for the Prime Minister's multi-million-dollar family trust fund, zero. New taxes for Stephen Brompman's Cayman Islands tax shelter, zero. That is life in Liberal tax paradise. With this hypocrisy now exposed, will the government finally apologize for insulting the integrity of hard-working, tax-paying small business owners across this country?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, our government is firmly committed to fighting tax evasion and aggressive tax avoidance to ensure that the tax system is fair for all Canadians. In the past two budgets, we invested some $1 billion in order to ensure that taxpayers' money is used wisely. Our plan is working because some $25 billion of undeclared money has been recovered. The CRA is looking into links between Canadian entities and will take appropriate action with regard to the Paradise Papers, and we will continue working for a fair tax system for all of the country. The Honourable Member for Hochelaga. Yesterday, in her victory speech, the new mayor of Montreal, Valérie Plante, stated that she intends to appeal to the federal government in order to increase the supply of social housing. 25,000 families are on the waiting list for social housing in Montreal. So the mayoress is adding her voice to calls by the FCM Big City Mayors Caucus to ensure that the national housing strategy preserves and increases the number of social housing units. Has the minister heard these calls? The Honourable Minister of Social Development. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to take advantage of this opportunity to congratulate Ms. Plante for her new position as new mayor of Montreal, and I'd like to thank all of the other candidates who worked very hard across Quebec for the municipal elections. And I personally am very eager to meet with Ms. Plante. We will be doing so in the next few weeks. The first national housing strategy in the history of country will bring to Quebec extraordinary opportunities to reinforce the federal government's role in helping families. The Honourable Member for Shefford. Mr. Speaker, Granby in my riding of Shefford, we have the largest French singing competition in North America. Since 1969, this festival has been an important showcase for highlighting Francophone talent from here across the country. Recently, the Minister of Canadian Heritage made a historical announcement for Canadian creators. Can the Minister tell this House about the measures that she is undertaking to support these artists and to maximize their visibility across the world? The Honourable Minister. Order. I'd like to thank my colleague for his excellent question, Mr. Speaker, and for his work in the cultural sector. We believe in culture, and that is why we invested $2.2 billion in our cultural sector since we took power. And we have also invested $4 billion over 2 years to ensure that in the area of music that we can export our musical talents abroad. And we have invested $125 million over 5 years to relaunch cultural diplomacy and to support our cultural export strategy. Thank you.
Lampton.
Mr. Speaker, as an MP, Terrence Young introduced Vanessa's Law to honor his daughter who died after taking a prescription drug. 3 years ago today, Vanessa's Law received royal assent, yet under this government it sits idle and unenforced. But the Liberals are proposing to undermine the intent of this law even further by making Canadians wait 6 years for reports of injuries and deaths and requiring researchers to sign contracts to never reveal crucial data. Why has the government abandoned Vanessa's Law and the transparency crucial to reducing drug harms and deaths?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, we remain committed to working with our provincial and territorial partners to ensure that all Canadians have access to the prescription drugs in an affordable and accessible way that they require. We will continue to work with all of the affected Canadians on ensuring that this system is fair for all.
The Honourable Member for Pierre-Boucher, Les Patriotes, Verchères. Mr. Speaker, we're at the point where tax havens and the Liberal Party are being mentioned in the same breath. And every time we talk about the Liberal Party and tax havens, the Minister of National Revenue plays us the same cassette. When we learn that Jean Chrétien, Paul Martin, and Stephen Bronfman, Liberal luminaries, are hiding millions of dollars in the South, we understand why this government won't act on tax havens. It would rather defend the indefensible instead of cleaning up this mess. Taxes are for other people, not for the PM's cronies. Will the CRE do its work and conduct an investigation into Stephen Bronfman? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, during the last election campaign, the government was very clear. Our platform stated that we were going to attack tax evasion and aggressive tax avoidance. Over the past year, we've invested some $1 billion that has allowed us to recover $25 billion, Mr. Speaker. We have conducted inquiries. We have launched accusations. We look at 4 jurisdictions per year. That is what Canadians have asked it to do, and we're delivering the goods, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals simply can't be trusted, except to be caught with both hands in the cookie jar. We wondered why they voted against the Bloc Québécois motion on fighting tax shelters. Well, now we know why. It's because that's where they're hiding their money, Mr. Speaker. The Liberal Party is the party of tax evasion. And they try to tell us that they're defending the middle class. Mr. Speaker, will this government finally act and go after those who use tax shelters to evade taxes, even if they are cronies and families and colleagues? The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, this government is firmly committed to taxing tax shelters. We have taken tangible means to do so. Over the past 2 years, we have invested some $1 billion that allow us to recover $25 billion. We have laid charges. We have worked at an international level. We're working with our partners. Our work is not yet done, but we're going to continue. And I can tell you that for us across the way, we have always done much more than what the Bloc Québécois has done.
Member for Nunavut.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Finance.
The government is committed to making real progress on issues most important to Indigenous peoples, including education. Targeted investments in First Nations education have been made to ensure a brighter future for First Nations children. Nunavut currently has the lowest graduation rate in the country, with only 35% of students graduating. This is 50% lower than the national average. My question is, how and when will similar targeted investments be made for Inuit education in Nunavut? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
I thank my colleague for his question. In line with our commitment to work with provinces and territories, we recognize that the issues raised by my colleague are very important. I can assure him that they are at the very heart of our preoccupations. Recently, the Finance Ministers met with the organization Inuit Tapirit Kanatami, which represents more than 50,000 Inuits in some communities my colleague has referred to. Our government transferred $1.6 billion in 2017-2018 to Nunavut, and we will continue to work with our partners to make sure that we achieve results for all Canadians and to work with the member. Thank you.
Pursuant to order made on Wednesday, October 18, 2017, I will now make a statement commemorating the 150th anniversary of the first meeting of the First Parliament of Canada, after which I invite representatives of all parties in the House to proceed with their own statements. I
invite all members to the Hall of Honor to reveal a decorative window to commemorate this event.
Today we mark an important milestone in Canada's history, the 150th anniversary of the first meeting of the First Parliament. I am honoured that in recognition of this significant chapter in our nation's history, we have in attendance today several of our former Prime Ministers, Speakers and Clerks of the House of Commons. On November 6, 1867, Canada's members of Parliament came together for the first time to begin shaping their new country, writing the laws that would enable their fellow citizens to govern themselves and strengthen our fledgling democracy. En ce jour,
on this day, 150 years ago, our predecessors began this ambitious journey that continues today, that of creating a fair and prosperous country for all of its citizens.
To imagine the enormity of the task before these first parliamentarians, gathered in the chamber that used to stand here, facing the monumental challenge of governing a vast and sprawling country still in its infancy. Consider, too, that in those days, Ottawa was not perhaps the most sophisticated location for Canada's capital. A decade before Confederation, the English essayist and political scientist Goldwin Smith dismissed Ottawa as a subarctic lumber village converted by royal mandate into a political cockpit.
I would also like to add, to not leave Mayor Jim Watson out, that since that time, Ottawa has significantly improved. It has even become a world-class city. A lot of work has been done in developing it. But there's always more to do.
Any democracy worthy of its name is always a work in progress. And it is our duty as parliamentarians to build on the foundation laid by those first members of Parliament who established the country that it is our privilege to serve. Le très honorable Premier Ministre.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Monsieur le Premier Ministre.
I rise today to highlight a historic date. It is on this day, 150 years ago, that the first Parliament of Canada sat for the very first time. Over many years and sittings that have occurred since then, this House, more than any other institution, has written Canada's history. Men and women have sat in this place to discuss, to legislate, in order to create a better country, that is more fair for everyone.
Prime Minister, the great Lester B. Pearson, once said, "We who are elected to serve Canada in Parliament owe those who elect us more than the advocacy of non-controversial ideas." He was right. This House has hosted some of the most important debates and decisions of our time. Within these walls, Canada has been reborn countless times ever since Confederation, and in our progress, we've defined the character of a country. It was here that Agnes MacPhail broke barriers as the first female MP. It was here that we introduced universal health care. It was here that we abolished the death penalty. It was here that same-sex couples were extended the right to marry. Et c'est ici qu'a été débattu.
And it is here that we debated and passed the Official Languages Act. Mr. Speaker, this place has also served to redress some of our most serious faults. We have made apologies for dark and shameful chapters of our history, namely the horrible treatment of Indigenous peoples in the residential school system, as well as the people aboard the Katamakamaroo who were just seeking help. This House has also welcomed some extraordinary guests, including Winston Churchill, Nelson Mandela, and Malala Yousafzai. Indeed, serving in this House is one of the greatest honors that one can aspire to.
Year after year, members sit in this House and do important work on behalf of Canadians, work that impacts families and communities, work that shapes the course of people's daily lives. And because of the magnitude of what happens and what can happen, here we won't always agree. But it's the way we disagree that defines us. Let us be women and men of principle and of humility, for we have been bestowed with the responsibility to serve, and we must do so honorably. We're lucky to have had strong leaders in this place to remind us of that, folks like Arnold Chen. Let's never lose sight of the fact that we're all here for the same reason, to make our country better and to improve the lives of the people we serve. We may have different ideas on how to get there, but there is always common ground, and if we work together, we will find it. Mr. Speaker, on this historic day, I call on all of us to continue to work hard and to stay true to ourselves. And on that, I'm reminded of something that our 15th Prime Minister once said: "Our hopes are high, our faith in the people is great, our courage is strong, and our dreams for this beautiful country will never die." Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, for 150 years, our Parliament has been the reflection of Canada and Canadians. It is more than a building. It is the embodiment of our national character, its virtues and its vices, its strengths and its weaknesses.
Ground and been built back up stone by stone. It has heard the echoes of gunfire and felt the blast of a bomb that thankfully detonated mere minutes prematurely. It has rung with cheers of victory at the end of 2 world wars, and it has stood mute witness to the tears of a nation mourning distinguished former members of this House lying in state, from Sir John A. Macdonald to the Honourable Jack Layton. Les mesures législatives.
Legislative measures debated and passed in this House move Canada forward, and unfortunately, sometimes they make it take a step back. Our House has seen legislative measures that support freedoms and some laws that limit them.
Also an institution. And as an institution made of human beings, the outcomes aren't always perfect. À titre de citoyen canadien,
As Canadian citizens, we should not regret our past. We should never be afraid of admitting our mistakes and, if it's appropriate, to apologize for them.
Why Prime Minister Harper came to this House 9 years ago and issued an historic apology to former victims of the Indian residential schools on behalf of a country that had failed them. It was appropriate because so many of the decisions that caused so much grief and suffering had been deliberated and in some cases approved right here in this building. That we who have been trusted with the governance of Canada have sometimes failed should not be surprising. This chamber may be made of wood and stone, but the men and women who give it its life are hewn from the crooked timber of humanity. These chairs have supported patriots and heroes, but also a few rogues. So we cannot claim to have always been perfect, but we know, Mr. Speaker, that perfection is not available to us this side of eternity. Yet somehow the motley and imperfect assemblages that have gathered here over the last 150 years have achieved something of a miracle. Together, the members who came before us superintended a Canada that has grown and flourished beyond what anyone in the first Parliament could have dreamed. It is fashionable today to look down on the past, but that is a luxury that we enjoy from heights built by those who preceded us in this chamber. If you look back at our rich history and study the leading figures in its telling and see only the blemishes, then you are missing out on the beautiful story of a country constantly bettering itself and consistently offering a refuge to so many. A story of different parliaments at different times, working through the imperfections of the day. A story that, on the whole, has been a story of hope for so many. A story of prosperity, compassion, liberty, and human rights. To those who deny that we have anything to be proud of as a country, I would pose a simple question. Where else would you have rather lived for the past 150 years? That's not a rhetorical question. It is a straightforward question for which there is only one honest answer. There is nowhere we would have rather lived, no country we would rather call our home. For no country has acquitted herself better at home and abroad than Canada. It is indisputable that the world has been better off for the last 150 years because of Canada. Without the sacrifices of our soldiers, sailors, and airmen, more than 100,000 of whom paid the ultimate sacrifice, while many more came home bearing scars, mental and physical, the world would be
Without the genius of our artists, painters, sculptors, writers, singers, and actors, the world would suffer a real cultural loss. Without the hard work of our men and women who farm, exploit, and develop our landscapes, who fish in our 3 great oceans that surround us, and who work in our cities, factories, and office towers, the world would be a poorer, colder, and more somber place. If we allow ourselves to be blinded by the failures of the past, we will forget our remarkable successes. We must not take for granted our contributions to Canada and the contributions of Canada to the rest of the world.
That we have prospered and flourished is no accident. It is a combination of good fortune and good stewardship. We are fortunate to have inherited the most stable and enduring political system in the world, and we should be grateful to the members of this House who have nurtured and sustained it for the benefit of Canadians and the inspiration of the world. For it is to this House that world leaders have come over the last century to express their admiration of Canada as the very exemplar of peace, order, and good government. It was here that Churchill came in Britain's darkest hour, when Hitler's armies were within sight of English shores, to thank Canada for our support and to display his jowl-shaking defiance in the face of Nazi aggression. Later, we were engaged in a very different kind of war against Soviet imperialism, a battle not just based on geography, but on ideology, a battle to defend the economic freedom that has created untold prosperity for so many millions around the world, yet a freedom that was denied to so many. During that battle, 2 of the great figures of the 20th century, Ronald Reagan, and Margaret Thatcher each came to this House twice to thank Canada for our friendship and dedication. More recently, Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko came to Canada while his country was suffering under a new Russian imperialism to praise the special partnership between Ukraine and Canada and to salute Canada as a model for Ukraine and for the world. It is in our nature as Canadians to be self-deprecating, but sometimes, maybe once every 150 years, it's okay to acknowledge what the rest of the world tells us. We occupy a special place in the fellowship of free nations, and our institutions, including this Parliament, are the envy of other nations. Now, I'm not asking members of this House to pat ourselves on the back and congratulate ourselves for assuming this awesome duty. Rather, let's roll up our sleeves and get to work here in this House and across Canada to continue the work of those who came before us so that those who come after us, 150 years of now, will consider us worthy of the same gratitude we offer today to our predecessors.
The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Nejati-Misquotalia-Basque.
Mr. Speaker, it's an honor to rise in this House today and join my colleagues in marking the 150th anniversary of the first sitting of this Parliament. Canadians can be truly proud of having built, shaped, and preserved one of the longest uninterrupted parliaments in the world. Every day, we demonstrate to the world how ideas can be debated in a peaceful, civil, and productive manner, with the possible exception of question period. We show how we can come together to make life better for the people who sent us here to represent them. In a country as geographically, linguistically, and ethnically diverse as ours, this is no small achievement.
The NDP can be proud of the firsts that happened here in Parliament. For example, we elected the first openly gay man in this House, and we elected the first female leader of a federal political party in this House, to name just a couple examples. There's no doubt we've made a lot of progress since the time when this Parliament was composed only of white men. We're happy to see that the members who sit in this House much better reflect the people who elected them compared to what happened back in the day.
But we have to be honest that we are nowhere close to where we need to be. We have yet to achieve even near gender balance in this House. The 2015 election sent a record number of women to this chamber, and yet they still only make up a little more than a quarter of the MPs in this House. All parties should use this important anniversary to commit to reaching gender parity in this House as soon as possible. New Democrats and Canadians across the country also believe our Parliament can be made even better by reflecting Canadians' actual voting preferences.
We need to be honest, this House does not reflect the proportion of votes that each party received in the last election.
If we move towards a proportional system of elections, we could not only make room for new voices, but re-inspire Canadians with the knowledge that their vote truly does matter and their Parliament is truly a reflection of their will. Surely, Mr. Speaker, there's no better way to mark the 150th anniversary of this Parliament than by working to make it more representative. All Canadians will benefit from it. The
celebration of our Parliament wouldn't be complete without mentioning the hard work and devotion of the thousands of staff and civil servants who have ensured the stability of this institution over the years by managing everything that happens behind the scenes.
Committee staff, the legislative support staff, our financial officers, our cafeteria workers, the janitorial staff, the security guards, and every other member of the personnel that I won't be able to mention specifically today. This Parliament literally cannot function without you. Lastly, on behalf of the New Democratic Party, I extend my heartfelt congratulations to all Canadians on the 150th anniversary of their Parliament and recommit to making this place a source of pride for our country, but more importantly, a source of the support, solutions, and leadership that will make life better for everyone from coast to coast to coast. Merci et félicitations.
Thank you and congratulations. The honourable member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I'd like to congratulate my predecessors who gave a very good tribute to Canada in this 150th year. I'm sure that for them, parliamentarism is something that's very important for them, and that there are many Canadians who are proud of that. But unfortunately, for many Quebecers, it means something different. Mr. Speaker, Canada's 150th doesn't resonate in Quebec, and that's not surprising because Quebecers were never excited about signing on to the BNA Act. They weren't enthusiastic either about Canada's anniversary. For 150 years, Quebec has been consistently weakened by the decisions made in this House. For example, in World War I, the federal government temporarily started taxing Quebecers. The war was over, but all of the heroes who served, all of their descendants continue to pay taxes now. The federal government continues not to provide enough services to Quebecers. Mr. Speaker, this is an anniversary that federal parties, that Quebec parties would have preferred not to recognize. Quebec was not allowed to manage its own culture, education, or information.